Very good. We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful. And never been done before or anything like this, but it's something that we're going to be putting out over the next, would you say 2 weeks, Howard? Do you want to say a couple of words about it?
Sure.
Mr. President, are there any requirements for that gold card? Do you have to invest a certain amount of money in this country in order to qualify?
Just not hearing about. There it is. I'm just not hearing about this gold card. That's crazy. Let me adjust my mic here, it's too loud. How's that? Gold card, huh? Well, let's hear about it.
For that gold card?
Yeah, exactly.
So the EB-5 program was really, you lend some money, but it was full of nonsense, make-believe, and fraud, and it was a way to get a green card that was low-priced. So the president said, rather than having this sort of ridiculous EB-5 program, we're going to end the EB-5 program. We're going to replace it with the Trump Gold Card, which is really a green card gold. So they'll be able to pay $5 million to the U.S. government. They'll have to go through vetting, of course. We're going to make sure they're wonderful, world-class global citizens. They can come to America. The president can give them a green card, and they can invest in America, and we can use that money to reduce our deficit. Why do we give out lotteries of green cards? Why do we give out EB-5 for green cards? The President of the United States understands that the right answer is, why don't we eliminate the deficit of the United States of America instead?
The gold card, well, millions, but the gold card will bring in with it people that create jobs, very high-level people. I think companies will pay to get people in. For instance, you today graduate from the Wharton School of Finance or Harvard or
I guess that's not a bad idea.
Stanford or any college, and nobody knows if you can even go to work for a company. So Apple and all these companies that want to get
so only rich
people to be
won't be able
working
to
for
get
them will
this.
be able to buy a card, and for the people that are number one in their class at top schools.
I guess they won't be hard to track.
I see that as one of the things, but generally speaking, it'll be people with money and people that create jobs, and they won't have to pay any tax on income outside of the United States, which they're not paying right now. They're not citizens, but they'll have to pay if they create jobs in the United States. They'll pay full taxes like everybody else. So you're getting big taxpayers, big job producers, and we'll be able to sell maybe 1 million of these cards, maybe more than that. And if you add up the numbers, they're pretty good. As an example, 1 million cards would be...
Do you think there'll really be 1 million people signing up for that? Is there 1 million people in the world with that kind of money that are going to want to spend it on this?
Worth $5 trillion. $5 trillion.
Wow.
And if you sell 10 million of the cards, that's a total of $50 trillion. Well, we have 35 trillion in debt. That'd be nice. So we'll see. But it could be great. Maybe it will be fantastic. We have it all worked out from the legal standpoint. It's totally legal to do. Hasn't been done before. It's been done in many different forms. We give them away. Why should we give them away? We shouldn't give them away. And I think it's something very exciting. I think it's potentially just something that we're all very excited about. So it's a gold card. It's somewhat like a green card, but at a higher level of sophistication. It's a road to citizenship for people. And essentially people of wealth or people of great talent, where people of wealth pay for those people of talent to get in, meaning companies will pay for people to get in and to have long-term status in the country.
Oh.
And I think it's something we're very, very happy about.
So he's trying to say that companies will pay for their employees to send people over here to work for them? and then they'll have to buy more than one. That's not a, I guess I'll give it to him. He's one hell of a businessman. He crazy as hell though. I don't know how, I'm not sure how many people are gonna sign up. Well, we'll see.
Would you have anything to say about that?
Well, many other countries, by the way, do this, including, of course, your 51st state does that.
And the money's earmarked for deficit reduction?
It may be earmarked for deficit, but it actually could be more money than that. I mean, if you did 10 million, you'd have $15 trillion left over. But generally, it's going to be paid down debt, yes.
Do you need Congress for this? Do you think you need
No,
to
we don't
pass a
need
law?
Congress, no, because we're not doing citizenship, we're doing the card.
I see.
It's a path to say.
Let's see what else we got here.
For many in the Gaza Strip, Donald Trump's dreamlike vision of the enclave's future looks more like a nightmare. The president reposted this apparently AI-generated video to his Truth social site, appearing to show the president immortalized as a golden statue, dancing with a belly dancer and suntanning alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Elon Musk also making an appearance, walking amongst dollar bills and twice appearing to chow down on hummus. It's all set to upbeat music with lyrics including "No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here." It's unclear who generated the video, but amidst the horrors of the Gaza Strip, Trump's video landed with a thud.
We have lived through hell, 500 days and genocide and displacement and poverty and horrible conditions that even the animals couldn't handle it. And after that, he's coming to control Gaza? No, we're not going to let you. We're not going to accept that.
He sounds angry.
We will fight you as long as we can.
You don't know anything about Gaza because this video is ridiculous. There is nothing related to Gaza.
Palestinians and much of the Arab and Muslim world had already angrily rejected Trump's proposal for the U.S. to take over Gaza when he made it a few weeks ago.
I don't want to be cute, I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad, this could be so magnificent.
When asked about the video, a White House spokesperson repeating plans for Gaza's rebuilding, writing in part that it will allow for Palestinians to resettle in new, beautiful communities while improving conditions in the region for generations to come. But there are some more imminent concerns for the people of Gaza right now, as phase 1 of the Israeli-Hamas ceasefire finally comes to a close. The Hamas Media Office for Prisoners saying 620 Palestinian prisoners were released tonight, and the Israeli Prime Minister's office confirming 4 deceased Israeli hostages were also returned home. It comes as Israelis mourn the loss of the Bibas family, Mother Shiri and her 2 sons Ariel and Kafir, killed after being taken hostage by Hamas on October 7th. Israeli officials say tens of thousands lined the streets for a lengthy funeral cortege that traveled almost half the length of Israel today, ending near the kibbutz where the family was kidnapped.
What the heck?
The husband and father of the Bibas family, who was just released last month, delivering a tearful eulogy, saying in part, "Shiri, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you all. If only I had known what would happen, I wouldn't have fired." And Allison, while tonight's exchange seems to rescue the first phase of this very tenuous truce between Hamas and the Israelis, the big test is going to be coming after the weekend. There have been no apparent efforts to negotiate a move from the first phase into the second phase, which would see a more permanent peace in the Gaza Strip and eventually the full withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. Like I said, there's been no real movements in that direction, so the rest of this peace treaty is still up in the air. Ellison?
Matt Bradley, thank you.
Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So listen, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. We just saw Trump completely obliterate this market. I truly do believe that a lot of the moves being made around Trump right now are very crucial to focus on. Number one was the meme coin, which also completely killed sentiment in the space. It siphoned a ton of liquidity out of the market, causing a mass sell-off as well. Then we saw, of course, Melania Trump coin, which also sold off heavily, taking a bunch of liquidity with it. And now we see Trump continuing to kill this market. I'm going to be addressing this and talking about it. Now, do I think that...
Don't that mean it's time to buy? Isn't that a good thing? That's what I would do. It's time to buy some crypto.
this is intentional? No, absolutely not. What is happening right now is geopolitical, discussing this and talking about it. Now, do I think that this is intentional? No, absolutely not. What is happening right now is geopolitical, tension is brewing, and now we have a trade war beginning. And this is causing a lot of panic across the board. Now, of course, the meme coins did not help at all. That's when a lot of things started to kind of go sideways. And now, as you do look at my screen, we can see Bitcoin just under 80K. In the last 7 days, Bitcoin itself is down 20% almost. Ethereum is down about 24%. XRP is down about 24%. And by the way, those are not the worst gains or losses, I should say here. In the last 7 days, Radium is down 57%. Tau is down 35%. And we can see across the board, there are so many losses piling up. And even if we go over here to the gainers and losers in the last 30 days, and we go to the top 500. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of gains across the board, but look at these double-digit losses. I mean, this is rough to see. Most of this market is getting hit in a big way, and that's just the top 500. If we actually go and look at the top 100 itself, which is the highly liquid altcoins, guys, even the highly liquid altcoins, like Chainlink, for example, is down 40+%. This is no joke. This is what a complete washout looks like. Now, to a lot of people, they are wondering, what's going on? Are we in a bear market? Are we in, the beginning stages of a much larger correction? I want to address this in this video, but let's start off with Bitcoin.
If you're into crypto right now is a perfect time to get some. And if you're not into crypto, right now would be a perfect time to start.
Bitcoin first real quick, because again, we could see those massive losses even in the last month, down over 22% almost. This is what the 1 year looks like. Guys, we're now back to levels that we haven't seen since going back to roughly the beginning of November. This is a big washout. And you know what's crazy about all of this is, a lot of the people that are getting shaken out of Bitcoin right now are actually newcomers. A lot of the people that are getting
Bitcoin is $80,000 per coin. That's crazy. What is it, September of 2024 he's looking at? That's only, no, wait. Yeah. That's only a few months ago. And it's back up. I think this time last year, a Bitcoin was like $40,000 or something. I don't quite remember, but it's gone up a lot.
Being shaken out of Bitcoin right now are actually newcomers. If we go over here to this post from Quentin, we could see 74% of Bitcoin losses came from holders who bought in the last month. Newcomers are getting shaken out, and we could actually see that on this chart in terms of who's actually getting liquidated. This is realized loss by age. Most of those individuals are actually the ones that were buying within the last month in terms of the time frame, which is pretty crazy to think about. But this is also why I've always said that we constantly see a washout of the newcomers, the ones that don't understand how cycles work. And that just causes cascading liquidity effects across the board, because what we do see is liquidations. And right now, if we go back 8 hours ago, I mean, we're probably up past well over, a couple $1 billion in terms of, the actual amount liquidated from the market. And you got to remember that, to a lot of people, that just sounds like a small amount, like, oh, it's $1 billion. Or for an example, like the meme coins, it was like over $10 billion in general. To a lot of people, that doesn't seem like a lot, because even right now we're at a $2.65 trillion market cap. The issue here is it's not just the amount of money in, liquidations that matters. It's across the board, which means you're starting to see liquidity being wiped out from a lot of these projects that actually don't have strong liquidity, which causes even more downside pressure. But this overall sell-off isn't just about liquidations. It's not just about Bitcoin, right? Like, we could look at this and say, oh, well, the crypto market's going into a bear market. It's not just crypto. When we look at stocks, the S&P 500 is down 4.7% over the last couple of days. We're talking about, the S&P 500 itself going from 6,100 roughly all the way back down to like 5,800. And right
I
now,
don't know
this
what
is
that
not
means.
open. This isn't live trading. We're going to watch what happens, during the open. But also even the NASDAQ down 7.6%, going from roughly 22,200 all the way down to about 20,500. A massive sell-off over the last couple days. And then, of course, we do have the Dow Jones down about 4.11%, going all the way back to roughly the end of January. A lot of this price action has been one big chop fest since roughly, December, January. Even when we look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin, and we're going to talk a little bit about all of these scribbles over here and what I'm really kind of looking at here. But Bitcoin technically hasn't had a daily candle close that's been bullish since going all the way back to December 17th and the 18th. In fact, this has all been resistance up here while we await for a breakout. And what ended up happening was, well, guess what? We rejected off of resistance multiple times, started to chop to the downside.
Blame Trump.
And then we lost our support. In fact, we lost our support on Tuesday, February 25th. And then after that, it was just downhill from there. And this is also why I told you guys to stay focused on these liquidity wicks, because once they are lost, it's not going to stop Bitcoin from creeping all the way down to the low 80K region. But now we're actually losing 80K. And the big focus here is the CME gap on Bitcoin, which is right around roughly 77.4K to about 81.2K. This is almost completely filled. And the thing that I'm really looking at here on Bitcoin and most of these markets, because you got to remember, like, this is a big effect across the board. We're seeing stocks selling off heavy. We're seeing crypto selling off heavy at the same exact time that the dollar is actually pumping. Now, you might say, well, the dollar actually really isn't pumping all that much. We went from roughly like 106.2 to about roughly 107 almost 4. But you got to remember that this is the reserve currency of the world. This is the US dollar. So when this thing starts to move to the upside, risk on assets all of a sudden flip bearish. But it's also flipping bearish at a time where we see Trump, talking about tariffs again. And we already saw what happened with the tariffs originally, right? They caused a big sell-off in the market. In fact, they caused a massive shakeout. And now we have here a global sell-off in stocks continued from Asia into Europe on concern that U.S. President Donald Trump's planned tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China will hurt economic growth. Here's your evening briefing. Now, also, if we go over here, we could see the full breakdown. Breaking: Trump announces that 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and 10% on China will go into effect as scheduled, March 4th. So this is exactly why everyone is starting to sell. They are panicking. They are getting out. They're getting shaken out. And, this is a post from real Donald Trump on his social media app. And we could see a complete breakdown of what he's talking about here in terms of the tariffs. Just really kind of outlining a few things. I don't want to waste your guys' time. I want to really kind of stay on topic here. But the big problem here is that these tariffs, they shake the market. In fact, they scare the market, because what this really is the beginning of a trade war. And then we saw from CNBC, China vows to retaliate as necessary after Trump threatens another 10% tariff hike. And when China is, threatening that they're going to retaliate, and we hear Trump saying, oh, well, it's not just China, we're also announcing 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, which, by the way, Canada and Mexico also said that they are going to retaliate. All of a sudden, you see a big conflict. You see a massive conflict here that's going to shake the markets. It's going to affect economic growth, which means, guess what? We start to see a bearish economy. We start to see a possible collapse incoming, just like the financial collapse of 2008. And a lot of people still have PTSD from that time. So what do they think about doing? They think about dumping stocks. They think about dumping crypto. They think about selling everything. They want to hodl dollars, which is why the dollar is also surging to the upside. Now, the big question here is, should we be scared? Should we be worried? The answer is we should always be worried, right? We should always be worried that we're on the, cusp of a bear market, because at the end of the day, what goes up must come down. We know that this is the case. The issue here is that I have been preaching to take profits along the way to the upside. And to a lot of people, and I actually remember these comments when I was talking about even XRP in this case, I said, you never know what's going to be guaranteed. We don't know if XRP is going to go to $5. We don't know if XRP is going to go to $10. But that's why we take profits along the way. We don't sell the whole bag, obviously, but we take calculated profits. That way we pay ourselves for our time in this market. You should always take profits, and you should not scold anyone on taking profits, because days like this do happen. Now, do I think that this is the beginning of the bear market? Do I think that this is the bear market? No, I believe that markets are...
One of the things that Trump did very well that he never got credit for. The way that you make money when you're a federal government employee is not being a federal government employee. Like 30 years and you're a senior ranking officer and you're making $160,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
that's not what people want to do with their life, right? A junior salesperson can make $250,000. So what ends up happening is you work those 30 years so that you can build a network and so you can have very high level clearances. And those clearances don't expire the day you resign. They expire with time. So when you have a top secret clearance or a secret clearance, the thing that makes it expire is either you break a law and they pull it from you, or you don't engage in activity, you don't engage in a job where you use that access. As long as you keep using that access, it keeps being valid.
The job is for the government, or can it be any job?
It's a job for the government, because the government is what defines classification. Right? So now you're a senior intelligence officer making $160,000 a year, you retire from government. Well, now you have all the contacts of all the other offices inside the agency, contacts with FBI, NSA, DIA, NGA, right? You're connected to everybody. So then Booz Allen Hamilton or CACI or Mantech or any one of the big national security intelligence contractors, they can hire you, make you a executive vice president, pay you $400,000 a year.
And they're essentially paying for your clearance.
And what they're paying for is your access to all these other agencies because of your network.
So Trump shut that down because there was like a brain drain, if you will. People were leaving the agency to go work in the private sector and go make money. And he was like, you're not going to leave the agency and take your clearance. So you could either stay here, or you could leave, but you're not going to take that.
And there was a second reason to doing it. The other reason he was doing it was because he wanted to limit the competition of private intelligence firms outside of the firms that he was using.
Oh, so he was doing it to scratch their backs.
Oh, for sure. So he was doing it to scratch their backs.
Oh, and then, my God. This is next level shit.
And then...
Good reason.
Yo, I was ready. I was like, MAGA hat on.
Finally. One thing good.
Okay, so he's scratching the backs of his friends. His friends, allegedly, let's just say, have these intelligence companies. What would you call them?
Allegedly. Entertainment. There's videos for entertainment purposes and educationals. And all that.
Yeah, private intelligence firms.
Private intelligence firms. And so they already have these employees that have clearance?
Yes, and there's also employees that don't have clearance, right? But it's all about, at the end of the day, I know this might shatter your trust in the federal government. It's still a good old boys network. It's still who do you know, who do you trust, and who's going to be loyal to you when people turn on you. That's still very much how the government works.
Okay.
And that's just because it's hard for the government to evolve. It's not like the commercial sector that can evolve very quickly.
It has to.
You said there was a mass exodus when Trump came into office. Is it the older people that are like by the rules, or the younger?
It's the younger generation.
And why?
They were leaving.
The younger generation's leaving because they're asking themselves the question.
What's my future?
Wow. And my future's in the private sector. I'm out of this.
I can make more
money. I'm not going to be able to take my clearance with me. I'm going to make no money for 30 years and then not even have the balloon when I retire of private security.
And what does their career look like? Their career looks like serving a federal government that can't tell its ass from its elbows.
Yeah.
Right? And don't forget, too, that from 2016 to 2020, during that Trump administration, he didn't trust the CIA. So when he doesn't trust the CIA...
For good reason?
For mixed reasons. Some were good, some were bad. But keep in mind that the CIA falls under the executive...
What'd you say? The what?
Got him! Got him! Well done.
He's my asset now. This is my asset now. Let's go. Keep going. That's all it is.
He's like a Pokemon?
That's all it is, bro. You slowly get them to, what is it, get on board? What is it?
There you go.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
I got worn down.
That's it. That's it.
But you keep in mind that CIA, right? CIA falls under the executive branch. There's 3 branches of government, right? The executive branch, the boss is the executive, the president. So when CIA
isn't listening to the boss
doesn't fund them. So when the boss says, I don't need you, I'm going to cut your funding, now all of a sudden your operations get cut. Everybody who's working there can't get those sexy operations that they need in order to get their promotions.
Now, is that system
this sucks.
built?
No. Because like in 20 years' time, all the government agencies are going to be shit because we're not getting any of the best young talent.
But think about real quick. The system then is set up not to bring forth the best data and intelligence. It's built to satisfy the boss. And satisfying the boss might not keep America its safest, because sometimes what the boss wants to be true is not. If there's an imminent threat and the boss doesn't care about it, but the CIA is like, yo, this is what it is, and you need to fucking listen and you need to fund this. This is a big problem. Now, the CIA fucks up when you lose the confidence of the boss. So this is a huge issue.
It's a massive issue. This is why you hear so many people, every election cycle, you will hear people talk about intelligence reform. This is what they're talking about.
Well, question though, sorry.
Can you just finish that idea though? The intelligence reform, what that means?
So intelligence reform is the idea that we need to reform the way that we do intelligence.
Right.
Everything from our promotions process all the way through to our sharing process, to our analytical process, because what the American people trust to be a functioning, efficient vehicle, we actually call on the inside, we call it a sandbox.
A sandbox.
Because when you put kids into a sandbox, the most important thing is that they play nice with each other. It's more important than them being creative. It's more important than them doing anything else.
And if you guys aren't getting along, then we get 9/11.
Right. That's right. And the whole getting along thing becomes a cultural challenge, because now if you're a 27-year-old go-getter and you don't get along with the old guard, then they're going to start holding you back, and then you never develop until you just punch out. And that's good for them because they want more of the old guard.
Right. Real quick, on this reform, how would you reform it? And this might be a longer question, but how do you create a system that puts forward the most efficacious data and intelligence while at the same time doesn't alienate the boss of the organization, which is the president?
Yeah. So there has to be there's checks and balances already in place. That's how the federal government, that's how our democracy works, is with checks and balances.
Yep.
Being able to institute checks and balances where, let's say you're a junior officer, you make a recommendation, your senior officer doesn't accept your recommendation, but there is some kind of documented process that you made what you said, right? Then no matter how the intelligence plays out in the future, it can actually be audited back to what the junior officer said. Then you end up having this thing, you have an incentive for junior officers to say, this is what I'm assessing. And you have an incentive for senior officers to listen to them.
Because it's documented.
But what happens now instead is literally senior officers change junior officer reports.
Wow.
So I will write a report. I will send it to my middle manager. My middle manager will rewrite my report with what he thinks is important on top of what I did before it goes to you.
And what's the justification for that? Because there must be.
Because the idea is that the more touch points, the more it will be refined by people who have more experience.
So they think it's refined, but in reality, it's a game of telephone. And what happens with the game of telephone is the information changes by the time it reaches.
And there's no accountability up at the top.
And then you remember there was the divide in culture.
Yeah.
So once you get to like a senior level officer, they were raised in the school of Cold War. So now we're talking terrorist reports. It gets passed to a middle manager who's got a little bit of terrorism experience, a little bit of Cold War experience, but it ends up in the hands of a senior manager who's really only Cold War.